Welcome back to American Ground Radio. I'm Stephen Parr with Louis R. Avalone.
Now, we've talked about this story earlier in the week, but Caddo Parish Commissioner Chris Kracman, of course, he was sued for defamation.
Right.
And then the lawsuit against him was dropped.
That's right.
Well, apparently, the attorney for the commission, Donna Frazier, has now decided he shall not be reimbursed his legal fees. Now, of course,
Chris Kracman's not going to be reimbursed.
Is not going to be reimbursed his legal fees in defending himself for statements that he made in his capacity in the ordinary course of his duties as a Caddo Parish Commissioner, because he was giving an interview. Which, by the way, I believe giving interviews to the media is in the ordinary course and scope of an elected official's duties.
Well, Speaker Mike Johnson's been giving lots of radio and TV interviews all over the country. As Speaker of the House, as the shutdown's been going on, he's been giving these interviews on a daily basis. Both Bill Cassidy and Senator John Kennedy give numerous TV and radio interviews as part of their jobs as senator. Governor Jeff Landry, we're going to have Governor Jeff Landry on we've had him in the past on the show. We're going to have him on the show in the future. That's part of his duty there, right?
100%.
So why would be talking to the media, talking to people in your community, why wouldn't that be part of your job as a commissioner?
Well, you know what? I have an idea.
Okay.
Why don't we ask Caddo Parish Commissioner Chris Kracman about that?
Well, that makes a lot of sense because he's currently sitting in the studio right now. Chris, welcome to American Ground Radio. Pleased to have you here.
How are y'all?
We're doing very well. Go ahead and get close to that microphone because it's a little sensitive there. All right, so you went on the radio and you were sued. This was over a gas station and a special taxing requirement, right? Is that right?
Correct. It's a TIF district, and they asked for a 2% sales tax to help pay for the infrastructure they installed, their driveway, plumbing, and so forth.
And you were talking about this because this was before the Caddo Parish Commission.
Correct.
And then basically the lawsuit was filed against you, and eventually that lawsuit was dropped. Is that right?
Right. It was dismissed.
It was dismissed by the court.
Correct.
So the court said no merit to this lawsuit.
Well, we got together and they filed a motion to dismiss, and we agreed to that motion to dismiss.
So the person that was suing you filed a motion to dismiss their own lawsuit.
Correct.
So they must have realized their lawsuit had no merit.
It speaks for itself.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you did nothing wrong, and you were speaking on the radio, and you were sued anyway, and you incurred, I'm assuming, legal fees as part of that defense.
Right. That's right. And to say that it didn't fall within the scope of my duties is quite the stretch, because, you know, we have the 7 Democratic majority members on the commission whose legal fees are getting paid for attending an anti-Trump rally, or a fighting oligarchy tour with Bernie Sanders.
Right.
Their legal fees for their actions at that protest, they are being covered.
The 7 Democrat members of the
Caddo
Parish Commission.
That's correct.
And just real quick, was it part of their duties to go tell Bernie Sanders how much they loved him?
Well, I mean, their attorney's fees are being paid, so you know, the parish attorney obviously thinks that that's within the scope of their duties.
Okay, but how can it be within the scope of their duties when what they're being charged with was that they didn't do it as Caddo Parish commissioners? That they issued this.
They're being investigated by the Attorney General of Louisiana.
Right, because they issued this proclamation without going through regular order, without putting it on the agenda, without having an open meeting. You never voted on this proclamation saying how awesome
Not
Bernie
until
Sanders
after
was.
the fact.
Yeah, so that was all done after they already issued the proclamation. So how can that be official duties when you actually intentionally subverted the official process?
Right, correct. And I think it's important to note that in Liz Morell's lawsuit, she is suing them as individuals, not as commissioners.
Okay, but back to your case. So your case gets dismissed, and again, these were over statements that you made regarding activities in your commission district that you represent, correct?
Right, that's correct.
Okay. Why did the commission attorney for Caddo Parish tell you your attorney's fees to defend yourself in a lawsuit, arguably over what are actions in the ordinary course of your representation of your district? Why are your attorney's fees not being paid?
Well, I mean, ultimately, the only answer I have is the same answer that she gave, that it wasn't within the scope of my duties. And, you know, the irony.
Going on the radio and giving an interview to the public, speaking to your constituents, is not within the ordinary course and scope of being a commissioner?
Well, I think in short, and what the Caddo Commission as a body is allergic to, is transparency. That's all it amounts to, is they don't want the transparency that I was giving. I was given all of the nitty-gritty about what was going on at the Halston truck stop, and they didn't want that. And look, the irony in it is the same day that the 7 Democrats attorney gave a response to Attorney General Liz Murrell, is the same day that the exact same attorney filed a lawsuit against me. So it's the same attorney that's representing the 7 Democrats that's suing me, that was suing me as well.
And had to drop their lawsuit because they ultimately realized it was completely pointless.
Sure.
On the same day, that's a very big, interesting. It's a very interesting. It almost looks like it's just about politics, not about principle.
Well, I think what's important to note here is, one, the lawsuit against me was to silence me. That's crystal clear, and it didn't work. And now we have, I mean, from the actions of this lawsuit trying to silence me, all the way to from what we saw on a national level on September 10th to silence conservative speech, all the way to what we saw this past week, this Monday, of one commissioner shutting off another commissioner's microphone. There is no length that our Democratic Party will not go through to silence conservative speech.
And it's not just nationwide, but you're saying this is in Caddo Parish itself.
Absolutely.
And so what do you plan to do? Because arguably your legal defense was not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. Do you plan to take legal action against the very body that you are a part of?
That is the plan. Either it's going to be a suit outright or declaratory judgment to start with, but I'm not going to play around with the freedom of speech, especially from elected officials. And look, this affects us conservatives. This affects the Democrats. It affects everybody. And every last one of us were elected to have this freedom to let our constituents know what is going on within our district.
So real quick, just if a Democrat were to go speak on the radio and say something that someone who has business with the Caddo Parish Commission doesn't like, they could sue them, and they wouldn't get
There's no
legal fees there.
protection. I mean, according to our attorney, there's no protection. Now, if you want to go stand beside Bernie Sanders and talk about Donald Trump all day and what they think a terrible job he's doing, well, that's covered. But if you want to talk about a gas station in your district, that's not covered.
Well, and the
That's
other
just
part
ridiculous.
is issuing a proclamation without having had the Caddo Parish Commission vote on it. And they didn't just do it once; they did it multiple times.
Right? There's no advertisement, there's no public hearing, and there was no vote.
Which is all a violation of the state open meetings laws, which, as Caddo Parish Commissioners, they're supposed to at least read over those once, right?
That's correct. And I think it's also important to note that our Attorney General told our legal staff that we should not be paying for their attorney's fees.
Well, Chris Kracman, thank you so much for spending some time with us, and thank you for your service to the people of Caddo Parish and the state of Louisiana. Appreciate you so much.
Thank y'all.
We've got more American Ground Radio coming up next. Stick around. We'll be right back.